So yeah, man, you talk about a kick in the nuts. A little over 12 hours after that, he was shot and killed by an enemy sniper.
Kuhn was?
Yeah.
God damn. Similar type of operation where you're just out driving around?
Just driving around and stopped to secure this one area. There's a platoon out there, and yeah, they were kids running up, trying to get for candy, and he leaned out of the gunner's seat and shooing the kids away. And there was a pretty big sniper threat who had relatively left us alone for the most part up to that point. But yeah, they got him that day, and so he wasn't killed instantly. And you know, man, it was just. And again, he was so well respected amongst all the men. And so when the call came over the radio, I knew something was bad, because the guy that called in was like the toughest son of a bitch. This guy, Chris Holsey, in the company, and it was just like, you know, we're heading in, call the medevac, and I was like, what's going on? You know, I need to know something. And he's just like, it's Kuhn, he's hurt real bad. And you got to know this guy, Chris, man. It's to kind of hear a little shake in his voice. I'd never heard that before. So they came pulling in, and you know, he told us it was a head wound, but he was still alive. And so, because of what had happened, and again how respected it was, we kind of we had a makeshift aid station. As it turned out, the colonel who led it happened to be attached to us for a day. He was out there. So we got the aid station ready and called the bird, and we took all the guys and said, get inside. We don't want y'all to see this. And so me and a couple of the senior guys, one of the platoon sergeants, and a couple of the squad leaders, we met the Humvee when they came in and pulled them out. And so one guy grabbed one leg, and again, he's a big kid. One guy grabbed another leg, and so I reached up like under his arms, and he had the bandage around his head, and you know, he's just making this god awful sound, man. It's a human body shouldn't make this. And we're carrying him in, and it's kind of hot. He's slipping around, so I move my hands up, and the bandage comes off his head, and try to catch it, and then you just see, you know, it's just a huge, you know, it's just right here, and I'm missing a lot of stuff. And so we get him in, and at this point, you're like, you know, you don't want him to make it. You know he's not going to, but you don't want him to, because for that big and strong of a man to see, you know, what you could see that he was, if he made it, would be a vegetable or something. But that tough son of a bitch, man, he made it through, and the bird came, and we went and, you know, carried him out there, and the bird drove off or flew off. And you know, me and the guys that were doing all the moving around, you know, we just kind of look at each other and say, you know, let's get the men together, but let's all go clean ourselves up first, because we're all covered in shit. So I went over to my bathroom, and you know, man, you're just numb in a situation like that, man. Like I remember it like it happened right before I got here. I mean, just that vividly, but at the same time, it seems like a different experience. And so yeah, so I'm just this numb feeling, and you know, washing my hands and my face, and like just picking stuff off, and it's just almost surreal, like not registering, you know, what I'm doing. And so yeah, so then I feel this burning sensation on my face, and you know, I kind of look up and look in the mirror, and I see, and it's not a gash or anything, but it's a thin cut, and it's kind of going by my nose here, up sort of towards my ear, and I see a little bit of blood seeping out of it, and I'm just like, you know, what the hell type deal. And then I started feeling that, and it was from the soap where I was washing my face, and the soap in my hands, and I started feeling it, and then I kind of looked down, and when I did, it just like that came to, and I looked down, and I had little pieces of a skull were stuck in my hands from carrying them in. I guess when I'd wiped the sweat off my face, I had cut myself open. And yeah, man, that was that moment right there was like sent me into a bad spot for almost 5 years after that.
At what point, or how long did it take for you to gain enough composure to be able to circle the fucking boys up and tell them what had happened?
Right away. I mean, it was, and again, I remember it so clearly. I just remember looking at it myself in the mirror, and it was almost like in real life. It's like feeling that image searing itself into my memory, and I just remember, I just went, "What the fuck, man?" Yeah. And then, like, all right, We got a job to do. So then I went out and we got the men together and said, basically what, like, guys, none of us, we don't think he's going to make it. As soon as I hear something, I'm expecting a phone call any minute. And then sure enough, about an hour after that, I got the phone call and he had passed.
Yeah. Is that something that, similarly to any of the other experiences or contrasted maybe, is that something that you think about often?
And when I say it sent me into a bad spot for a few years, like starting that day for almost 5 years after that, like I did anything and everything in my power to not look into a mirror. Because if I did, I didn't see me. I saw that image and I heard that sound in my head. If I saw a tall blonde kid anywhere, I heard that sound in my head. And yeah, man, it happened. And I got back to my room that night. And I called a buddy of mine, a guy named Jason Tucker, lives here, DFW area. And not a military guy, just probably the single best human being that I know. And I called him and he said, "Man, are you okay?" And I said, "No, yes, but no." And I said, "Man, I'm just going to say something out loud. And I don't want you to say, 'Are you okay? Everything all right?' Man, I'm sorry." I said, "Just let me say it and then don't say a word after that, because this is just one of those things I think I have to acknowledge." For me, that seemed like a pretty not normal life experience. And so I start talking, I tell him what I just told you. And that dude, you just talk about, man, the definition of an awesome friend. As we got done, when he could tell I was done, he kind of 10, 15 second pause. And he's a big Florida State fan like I am, and they had just had their spring game, and just being nails that he is, man, he goes, "Well, man, Weatherford looks like he's going to be our starting quarterback next year, and pretty excited about the team, man. So go Noles." That's how we always ended our calls. Yeah. And we never spoke about that it was probably almost 5 years after that when I brought it up to him, and he's like, "Man, I have thought of that moment every single day since then. But you always said, when I'm ready, I'll talk to you." And so I've always respected that.
Yeah. What was it 5 years later? Was there a transition, a pivot point, an instance that took place that allowed you to let it go or process it or fucking whatever?
Yeah, I came back, the split officially happened. We didn't get divorced right away, but they stayed, and I'd taken a job in Colorado, I left this 3-month-old. I come home to this 18-month-old toddler. We spent a year together, but I traveled a lot for work and then moved to Colorado. And basically once we got to Colorado, we realized it wasn't going to work. So she took Cole, my boy, back to Austin. And so, yeah, man, it wasn't drugs or alcohol or nothing. I mean, I still drink beer like as much as the next guy, but I didn't abuse anything like that. I just went dark and was the biggest hypocrite in the world, man. Guys were struggling. We had our first suicide. So we ended up, that Kuhn was the 7th guy. We lost one more guy 2 months after that, Caleb Christopher, his vehicle.
Similar IED or what?
He was EFP, yeah, straight to the turret, direct hit on him. Pretty bad thing. And then I left command halfway through that deployment and just wrote it out on staff.
Let's talk about that for a second. 2 things. You guys continued to do basically those same operations. If I'm putting myself in either your shoes or your guys' shoes, I have to be thinking, who the fuck is running the show to where we're just continuing to go out there and do the same things that are getting our guys killed? Was that addressed? Was that thought of, talked about?
Yes, and you get to me it was we got to do things kind of a different way. Things did get, and some of it was because I was combat ineffective. I didn't have any Bradleys left, so we had to start doing more stuff dismounted. I got, and again, I got to give my old boss some credit. I got a little more aggressive in how we did some things. There's a big thing, like you can't shoot a main gun round in the city of Baghdad unless you have, colonel level approval. Who in the middle of a fucking firefight is gonna, hey, bad guys, hold on a second. Let me call and ask Dad if I can shoot this thing. And so we started, if they would hit us with an EFP or have some little small ambush after that, it used to be like we didn't always have someone to fire back at. And so it was, hey, let's send a message. And we're not supposed to do that, but we knew the area enough to know. We knew which buildings were abandoned. And yeah, so shot a main gun round one day, and from a morale standpoint, that was like cool. I mean, the guys were like, we're shooting back, we're doing something back. And then stuff really picked up on the Iranian side. Then we started doing a lot more security stuff for the CAG guys, and even some CIA dudes came and went. And again, I was involved in stuff. I met a few of them. Most of it was all just over the net. But it kind of changed and gave us a little bit of a sense of we're not out driving around all the damn time. But when we still had to do some of those. And again, I'm 10 years out now. No one can get mad at me. It was, guys, you're going to be out there for 8 hours, and you're going to be sitting right outside our gate for 7.5 of that type deal.
Yeah.
Just, and that may be a little exaggerated, but it was, we're not going to drive around and get blown up anymore.